it is time for my favorite sort of gaming computer, the priced performance. All about value, gaming machine. And thanks to the fall of cryptocurrency, the graphics card is now more affordable than ever, and everything we have on this desk is all about priced performance and is all about saving you money. As always, we're going to walk you through all of the parts that are featured in this rig and show you why they're in there and what's hot and what's not. We're going to walk you through the full build process to show you how simple it is to actually put this together. But then I think most importantly, we're going to show you the proper gaming benchmarks so you know exactly how an £800-ish gaming computer actually performs. All that's left to say is a massive thank you to Deepcool for actually sponsoring this video, and let's get started. Of all the PC builds that I've put together, this budget is honestly my favorite because it really goes to show that you don't need to spend an arm and a leg to actually get fantastic gaming performance. And Deepcool are the brands that I have to say I really love working with when it comes to this sort of budget because they just seem to nail it every time. This case is the CK500, it comes in black or white, and this is one of those ones that you can have with a solid front panel if you want to reduce the noise. There's still actually plenty of ventilation all along the side and along the top. But if you're like me, you're probably going to want to remove this and then just have some mesh on the front and allow your case to properly breathe. It's entirely up to you and it depends on the components that you're going to use. I mean, today, I think this is going to be absolutely fine, but if you do want to kit this out with a super high-end GPU in the future, I would advise taking this off. But for now, we're going to need our cooler and our motherboard. And this is actually the first time I've used an H670 motherboard, not even on the channel, just in general. And if you're wondering the difference between B660 and Z690, this sort of sits in the middle. So you don't have the full overclocking capability of the Z series, but you do have a little bit more bandwidth to play with when it comes to the chipset. This means you can get extra USB ports, extra drives and things. It's a subtle difference and a lot of people won't notice, but it does give you a little bit more future-proofing. But the reason I went for this over an ASRock B660 board is because this actually seems to be a lot better value at the moment. I think you can buy this for about £2 more in the UK, so makes sense. I think there are 4 really important things you need to know about this motherboard, so I'll be quick. Firstly, this supports Intel 12th Gen, which at the time of filming is the most recent Intel CPUs. In the future, it will probably support 13th Gen as well with a BIOS update. You have PCIe Generation 5 support, which is going to be great for the future. But then you should be aware that this uses DDR4 memory, not DDR5, which personally I'm a fan of because it brings the whole price of your build way down. But obviously, in the future, it isn't going to be quite so quick. But at the moment, it doesn't matter for gaming, as we tested in the video you can find in the top right corner of your screen. But then the other thing that I think a lot of people might miss on this is that this isn't actually a Wi-Fi motherboard. So you're going to need to buy some sort of separate adapter if you don't have a wired Ethernet connection. Woo, we got technical there for a second, didn't we? I gave you all the spiel. Great word, spiel. The processor that we're pairing this with is my personal favorite for gaming. This is the 12400, but I highly advise, and I'll link down below along with everything else, the 12400F, because you don't need an integrated GPU with this, but you're paying slightly more, so get the F version that doesn't have one. This is a 6-core CPU, so it strikes the right balance really between price and performance. Yes, if you're going to be doing anything really intense or streaming or something, then I'd advise stepping up to an i7, but for most people, 6 is going to be absolutely fine. And if you do want to see why this is the best gaming CPU, my video is in the top right corner where we tested loads of them and showed that this is the best in terms of price, performance and value. It honestly is a really useful video. I highly advise that you check it out after you've watched this one. But installing it is really easy. I know loads of you have seen this before. You just open up the slot like so. Don't touch the pins or it could be game over. Pick up your CPU, Intel logo facing downwards, and then just gently lower this into place. Lower the socket back down. Give it a little push if need be. Then just get that lever back where you found it. And there you have installed your CPU. Then we can move on to the memory, or the RAM, and here we have some stuff from Crucial. I've pushed the boat out slightly as I have included RGB in our budget today, because let's be honest, it does look a lot better. Not everyone's going to agree, that's absolutely fine, but I would definitely want RGB in my system. This is an 8GB kit of DDR4 running at a speed of 3600 MHz, which is the right price to performance at the moment and is what I would advise. And to install it, you just lower it down into the slots using number 2 and number 4. Make sure it's pushed in all the way, and obviously that the grooves line up with the grooves on the motherboard. It is definitely a common mistake that people will put 2 sticks next to each other, or they use slots 1 and slots 3. This is the optimum way of getting your RAM to run at its full rated speed, max bandwidth, the works. Now for cooling, you do have 2 options. You can go for the cheaper option and use the stock Intel cooler that comes in the box. This is absolutely fine, it's free, you can use this in the meantime, but I would always advise upgrading as soon as you can because it is just going to make your system so much quieter. This is the AK400, this is from Deepcool, and I haven't actually used this yet, so we'll walk you through it as we go. This is going to give you much better cooling performance and it is going to be a whole lot quieter. Don't install this just yet though, because firstly, I would advise that you go for the SSD because you have better access. You're going to put it here, and if you put a big cooler, it just makes it a little bit more restrictive. It's doable, but it's just not the right order. Now, when I started making these sort of price to performance videos, I was using 500 gigabyte drives, but I would strongly advise that you get a terabyte if you can manage it, because drives have come down so much in cost, and honestly, this is just going to be a bit of a pain in the bum, as you're only going to get like 5 to 10 games probably on this if you're playing AAA stuff. Obviously, it's not the end of the world. You can just buy another one, but I guess do it right in the first place if you can. Obviously, budgets are tight, I totally understand. And that is the exact reason that we're not going for a Gen 4 drive, we're sticking with good old Gen 3. This is a Sabrent drive, and to be honest with you, I've still not seen a game that actually really better performs with Gen 4 versus Gen 3. I know the new games are right around the corner that will change this, but even then we're talking like a couple of seconds, if that. So I would highly advise that you save yourself some money and get Gen 3, at least for now. But now is the time to grab yourself some screwdrivers. You need a slightly smaller one for the M.2 SSD. It's just a crosshead, whack it in the top slot. Just remember to take the film off of the cover, otherwise the thermal heatsink won't really do anything. So we grab our drive, we line it up with this little slot, give it a push, grab our heatsink again, just line this up, and then screw it down. Now comes the time for you to be deeply cool. I mean, that's up there with one of the worst ones I've ever made, isn't it? Because of course it is time to install our CPU cooler. You get all of your mounting hardware in a separate bag. Please do make sure that you're buying a cooler that is compatible with 1700, or at least you're getting a compatible bracket, otherwise you're in for a world of pain and disappointment. And you'd be like, why didn't I listen to PC Centric? That's what my girlfriend says. You don't need to worry about thermal paste, as you do get some pre-applied, but be careful not to get this everywhere before you've actually installed it. The main difference between this and the stock cooler is not only that you have a much larger fan on this, that's going to be a fair bit quieter, but you have much more thermal mass on the cooler itself. So this is going to look better, it's going to sound better, and it's going to perform better too. The triple threat. Step one is to grab your little back plate and then move the screws into the slots for Intel 1700. If this doesn't mean anything to you at the moment, then the socket is called Intel 1700 for this motherboard. And the mounting for the cooler isn't actually the same as it used to be. So these holes don't line up until you make the adjustments. That's why you need to make sure it's compatible with Intel 1700. Satisfactory noise? Yes. So just grab your back plate and then feed it through the holes on the back of the board, and then lay the whole thing back down on your box. Oh, I've done what I told you not to do, look. I've got thermal paste on me. Pasty boy. That is me. I'm not actually that tanned, am I? But look, not only at the muscles, it's a bit of colour. That is shocking, isn't it? Why don't you eat some burgers? Why don't you shut your mouth? Oh, that felt powerful. Next up, you're going to want to grab your little spacers. They're quite cool because they actually say 1700 on, so you can't make that mistake. Loads of other cooler manufacturers don't do that. So there's good guy Deepcool actually looking after you. Then grab the larger plate, line it up on top of those holes with the screws facing upwards. Then just screw this into place. At which point you can grab your cooler, and it might seem counterintuitive, but remove the fan for now. But either way, here comes the fun bit. Just line this up with those screw holes, gently place it down, and then fit it down into place. Then it's just a case of grabbing that fan again and replacing it where you found it. Return this to the depths from whence it came. Then you'll have this cable to plug in to actually get the fan to do anything. But you just connect this to the little fan header that says CPU fan just above the socket. Easy as that. And with that complete, we can actually move on to installing our motherboard into the case. And I think my favorite thing about this chassis is actually the price, because at the time of filming, you can get this for around about 55, 60 pounds, which I think is really impressive when you think this is a full mesh case, it's RTX, it's actually built quite well. It's not the thickest panel, but it's definitely not the thinnest. And it pretty much has all of the features that you're going to need but you're not paying an arm and a leg to actually achieve them. So I like that you actually get some cable grommets here, which you normally don't on budget end systems. You've got a fan at the front and fan at the back. You've got this little GPU holder, which is a nice touch. If I were to be a little bit nitpicky, it's that I don't think the cable management this side is the absolute greatest. There's not enough tie down points to things, but obviously once you've built your rig, you're not going to worry about this. But it definitely makes up for it by giving you a Type-C port, as well as 2 USB 3s on a case that costs 60 quid. That is not bad. But before I get carried away, we do need to get our I/O shield, which is this little thing, and then line it up and place it at the hole in the back. Then you can lay your case down flat, pick up your motherboard, make sure the fan cable is not in the way, and then just lower it down so that the ports line up with that I/O shield, and then give it a little wiggle until the middle hole lines up with that little stubby bit. I realise my language might not be perfect there. The stubby bit is this thing here. So all of the holes around the motherboard need to line up with the standoffs behind it. Stops you having to worry about any shorts or anything like that. Shorts! Yeah, I think I just gradually go insane here because I'm obviously by myself. So the only person I have to talk to is you. But let's be honest, you are a camera right now. And other than a red light, I get no feedback. And the screen's gone off on the top because it's run out of battery as well, so I can't even see myself. That one's all right though. You look great, mate. Anyway, in order to actually get this fitted down, you'll need to take your bag of screws out from the hard drive cage. This should have everything you need to build your gaming PC inside, really. Bar any of the components, obviously. This is just a bag of screws. Underrated though, I like screws. And you're going to want to use the wide-headed one that looks as if it's got a washer baked into the head. And you just screw this down. But if I were you, I wouldn't stand your PC up because this is added risk. I just want you to be able to see. Once your motherboard is in and everything is safe and secure, you can start to plug a few things in, like this little fan cable that we found earlier. You can feed that through around the top. This is essentially just cable management. So when we plug it in at the top of the motherboard where it says Shafan, you don't have any horrible cables trailing everywhere. It's all about being nice and neat, or as neat as you can anyway. You're then going to want to do the same with the ones at the front. So we're going to plug this in down here at the bottom. More feedback actually for deep cool. I would love it if you could have a couple of holes here and here so we could get these fan cables in place without having any form of trailing. I can get this neat, but it's not quite as easy as I would like. Spin it around again and then grab this little bundle of joy at the back. These are all of your front panel connections. So you've got USB, USB-C, and then power switch, reset, things like that. They are labeled, but they are very small. You can get these and just tuck them underneath in the middle, back through to the main chamber. Oh, rotate once more. And then I would highly advise that you refer to your motherboard manufacturer's manual just so you're doubly sure, I guess, that you're plugging them in the right place. So they go down here at the bottom. I've done this so many times, I remember the reset is bottom right, power is top right, but there's no harm in checking yourself, is there? Then you can bring the USB 3, which is this very big fat cable, and plug this into the very big and fat connector, very close to where the graphics card will go actually. The USB-C is just above it. And then finally, grab the one that says HD audio and then connect this at the bottom left. But do be aware, you might need to move this when you put the power supply in if you're getting any horrible friction and it doesn't fit. Now at this stage, I'm going to go a little bit off-piste because if you do want to turn this into a slightly prettier rig, then you can start replacing some fans. And the ones that you're probably going to want to look at this sort of budget are these. They're the CF120 Pluses from Deepcool. And I like these because they're not the absolute best ones out there, obviously, but for the money, you get so much, and they're still a lot quieter than case fans, and you get the lovely RGB ring on this, so you can make your PC look incredible. But obviously, this will start to add extra cost to your rig, so I would probably advise that you leave these out when you first buy it, if you're trying to save yourself some money, and just upgrade them later. But today, not included in the budget I gave at the start, I'm going to install 3 at the front, which means removing this little dust filter, and then unscrewing the fan that comes by default. And there's no reason you can't reuse this, just move it up top. It's all very simple stuff, it's just a case of screwing them in. Then we just need to get all of these cables routed. Deepcool actually give you this little fan controller in the box, as well as an RGB fan controller as well. That will make everything much easier, so you don't need stupid amounts of ports on your motherboard. So we can plug these fans into the speed controller. And then the controller cable is just one 4-pin PWM connector we can plug in down the bottom where our fan was formerly connected, just like that. We're then going to need to do the same with the RGB. So you've got this RGB controller. So grab the RGB end of each fan and then plug it in. PC building is just plugging stuff in. It really is very straightforward. It's just sometimes a little bit fiddly. Once you've done that, you'll have one cable left, and this can be plugged into this little RGB controller if you want to use the deep cool effects, or if you do have a free slot on your motherboard, an addressable RGB, you can use this little converter, which is what I'm going to do here. So connect that in, grab our little 3-pin addressable, feed it in at the top, and then just plug it in. Drum roll please, because with that out of the way, it's now time to move on to my favorite bit, the graphics card. This is the RTX 3060, and I'll level with you, this is not quite such a good price to performance option as the 3060 Ti, but that card is around about £100 more expensive than that, so I don't really think most people can justify £400 on a graphics card. I know they're coming down, but until they're down, I think something like a 3060 is going to suit most people. This is going to be perfect for 1080p and I'd say mid-range 1440p gaming. But it is actually one of the few cards that comes with 12 gigabytes of VRAM, so it is actually pretty future-proof. The exact model that we've got here is the Eagle, and this is definitely one that I would go for because the 3060 doesn't need like a huge, big, bulky cooler on it. 2 fans should be absolutely fine. It is a little bit plasticky, but it's going to do the job very well. It's got RTX features like ray tracing, DLSS. It's a very good card. To get this installed, just remove the slot covers from slots 2 and slots 3. Whatever you do, try not to lay your graphics card down on a screw and get it stuck in your graphics card though. That's a new one. I really don't think that would have gone down well. Classic PC Centric being an absolute mug. My dad always used to say something very important to me, and I'll take it to my grave. More speed, less haste. And I really think I'm starting to understand what he meant. But once you've removed the screw from your graphics card, that should never have been there in the first place, line your graphics card up with the slots, and then just give it a push until it clicks into place. I should also say that there are some really good used deals going on eBay and Facebook Marketplace and things at the moment. Don't buy one that's obviously been used for mining. A lot of them will say they won't, but they have. But if you can get a genuine one, then a 3060 is available at a very good price. And at this point, we are actually pretty much done, other than a very big component, the power supply. Because obviously without this, nothing is going to get any power. This regulates all of the voltages and currents and things and sends the appropriate things to the appropriate places. The one that we've got here is the PM800D from Deepcool. I always say to try and get a good value power supply from a reputable brand, and this will be just that. This one is a non-modular power supply, which is going to save yourself a little bit of money, but if you do want to go for a power supply that is fully modular, you can pay more and you won't have to use all of the cables. But to be fair, this is a solid way to save yourself some money, and 800 watts of power is going to be more than we need today, and it will give you upgradability room tomorrow. So we'll slide this into place, ensure the fan is facing downwards, and then just grab the screw that was in your graphics card a second ago and fit it into place. You will of course then be left with all of these cables that are thankfully all black, no ketchup and mustard here to ruin the look of your system, just some extra bulk that you need to hide at the end. I always grab the largest one first, which is the RTX for your motherboard, then feed it through at the top. Grab one that says PCIe and then feed it through at the bottom. If you're using any hard drives or 2.5-inch SSDs, that RGB controller that we showed you earlier, you need these SATA connections. But the last thing I need here is the one that says CPU, and you connect this up here at the top right. So for one final time, let's spin this round, connect our graphics card, which is very easy, then get it nice and neat by pulling this cable back through. Our ATX power connection just needs clipping together, and then plugging in this very big hole next to the RAM. And then I think last but certainly not least, our CPU connects here at the top left. And with that, I believe that is our rig, hopefully complete and working. Not a bad looking system, is it? You could probably put another fan to match here at the top, or maybe get some extra RGB and populate the full thing. This is definitely a case that you can sort of grow with over time. But I think this is a nice looking rig actually. Should we get it turned on? The lovely guys over at Deepcore have also provided me with one of their new mice. This is the MG510, and this is a wireless gaming mouse. Personally, I'm a big fan. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people love wires, but I don't know. I like the flexibility, the freedom. Call me Braveheart. Let's get this thing plugged in then, and we will test out whether it works. Let's do it. We've got RGB fans, ladies and gentlemen. Always a great start. Things we like to see. How's it look from the front? Does it look good? Oh yeah. Boom. Obviously, if you do want to use the front piece, then the RGB lighting is not going to be quite so obvious, but you'll still get it from the inside. Display port. Yes, there we go. We're working. And you see what I mean about the CPU cooler? Listen to this. Whisper quiet. Let's enable XMP to get this running at its full rated speed. We'll set the CPU fan to silent. Love that they've got fantastic tuning down the bottom. Good old ASRock. And then somewhere we should have above 4G decoding, which is actually already enabled, as is smart access memory or clever access memory, because ASRock just want to be different. So with that, all you need to do is save and exit. If you don't already have a copy of Windows on your drive, which chances are you don't, it is actually very straightforward. Just go to the Windows website and download a copy of Windows 10 or 11, and then you just need a USB drive, follow the tool, it'll put it on there, whack it in the back of your PC, and then follow the on-screen instructions. I assure you it's easy. Once you're in Windows, just make sure you get all your drivers downloaded, your games installed, and if you do want to see how to do this, my video in the top right hand corner will walk you through everything in much greater detail. But I haven't used this drive in ages, so give me some time to get some games downloaded, and I'll see you in a few. Here we are then, day 2, and I've put way too much water in my hair. But anyway, here it is, our completed system with and without the front panel. And I think my main feedback is that I do like how clean it is. I'm just not sure I'm personally a massive fan of white builds unless it's all white. I think it's going to be the ideal size for most people. You can fit plenty of hardware inside this, but it's not too big and it can sit on your desk very nicely. But let's jump straight into Gamerino number 1, some Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to run this at 1440p, and in terms of options, we're going to try Ray Tracing Ultra. I'm not sure how this is going to go down, but we'll give it a go. And I'm expecting around about 40 FPS, and that's exactly what we're getting. I mean, look at that ray tracing. Look at it. Look at that. That is pretty cool. Obviously, this is pretty much the most demanding game on PC right now when it comes to graphics hardware, ray tracing, all of those things. But the NVIDIA technology that we have in this GPU does enable you to get the best out of the title. That's not to say AMD is bad, because obviously it's definitely not. But if you do want to play Cyberpunk, then clearly NVIDIA is the way to go. If you're not that interested in ray tracing, then obviously you will be able to get a much higher level of FPS. Ray tracing off, close it down, and it's not as pretty, but it's significantly more responsive, and this is the way I personally would choose to play, around about 65 FPS. Not bad for an £800 gaming PC. I'm going to whack it back up to Ray Tracing Ultra though, and turn it down to 1080p, as this is the way a lot of you will be choosing to play. And will we get a magical 60 FPS? Not quite, around about 50 to 55 depending on when and where you are in the game. This is a very demanding section of Cyberpunk. And I also have a lot of cars. I seem to be getting run over a lot. This is, as Valtteri Bottas would say, unfortunate. That is a really niche joke there. This video is also liked by Pierre Gasly. Why do people watch my videos? I've just realised we haven't done the peel yet. Boom. Lovely stuff. Moving on to our first multiplayer title, here is some Apex Legends, again running at max settings, but this time 1440p. Is it me or does this map look very similar to Kings Canyon? Maybe that was the point, I'm out of the loop. Anyway, as we touch down, we can see we're getting an absolutely ginormous 100 FPS, going up to around about 130 as soon as you get into a bit of a firefight inside. That is not too bad. Again, £800 PC, 1440p gaming, high refresh rate, boom. And as good as the next gen consoles are, PC gaming, mouse and keyboard. Come on. Let's whack it down to 1080p though. And immediately you can see we're now hitting that frame rate cap of 144 FPS that you can remove from Apex. It's just a little advanced launch option and it can go up to 300. We've got around about 98% GPU utilization, so you're going to get around about 150 FPS with this, I'd say. But as you can see, it is going to dip in certain areas. Do you want your audio test, by the way? It's a very quiet system, but personally speaking, I would remove this. So the temperatures you're going to see from now on are going to be with this removed. Let's move on to some Fortnite, shall we? This is actually running with NVIDIA's DLSS, so this is 1440p, but we're essentially upscaling an image with AI to get an even higher frame rate. And as you can see, we're getting around about 90, 100 FPS. Slightly lower than we were in Apex, but nothing too crazy. The game still looks lovely and crisp, it has to be said. I'm going in close range, boys. Go on, get them both. Ah, he did! Oh, I'm a horrible person. And what about 1080p, please? That is a fair old increase, actually, around about 130, 150 FPS.
Right, enough mucking about. You're going to the war zone.
And once again, this is 1440p max settings without any ray tracing, because let's be honest, why would you turn it on in Warzone? And jumping out the plane, we've got a very, very impressive figure of around about 130 FPS. This, for a lot of people, would be a sole Warzone machine. A lot of my friends, that's literally all they play. And for this to have, what, tied with the highest frame rate out of everything we've tested so far? Not too shabby. Oh, whoa, 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 that is shabby though. Come on, Marcus, sort it out. And technically, I think that was wrong. This is slightly lower than Apex Legends. I just got too excited. Change it to 1080p before I die. Quick, 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 quick. Okay, we're now getting 126 FPS at 1080p, so it's gone up, but it's not gone up as drastically as you might think. But that's probably because we're using DLSS technology. Where is he? Where is he? Where? There he is! There he is! Yes! You know what is a massive insult to that guy? Look, don't even want to play anymore. All in all, I think you'll agree this is a pretty kick-ass budget to mid-range system. There are definitely a few things I would change. Personally, I would just go for the black version of this. I think it looks a lot more seamless. Having said that though, if you do like the look of a more minimalist build, then I think this in white with a front panel on, you can't really beat it. For a case that cost around about £60, it's up there. I would also strongly advise that you do at least check the used market for a 3060 before you spend all of the money on a new one. Obviously, you do have to be a little bit careful which one you get, but there are definitely deals to be had. And if you are looking to save yourself some money, that is an excellent way to do it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know down in the comment section below. Do you think that this is a great system? What would you change? Absolutely smash that like button if you've enjoyed this. Get yourself subscribed. And of course, if you do want to check out current pricing on anything featured in this rig or in my entire setup, you can find that linked down below. Thank you so much for watching this video. Check out the PC Centric Discord, link down below too, and I'll catch you in the next one.